The ones who late, now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boy's TV. Here we are.
And I want to welcome you guys to Powernomics Thursday. Powernomics Thursday is where we get a chance to talk about Powernomics principles in our community and how we can form a stronger Black community long term. Today, I get the opportunity to speak with someone that I admire and deeply respect, and I know you guys respect him too, the one and only Dr. Paul Anderson. Dr. Anderson is the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. His website is powernomics.com. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Dr. Anderson, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm feeling just a slight bit better than I did last week, so I guess I'm moving in the right direction. I guess if I had your money, your personality, and good looks, I'll be in Fat City.
Man, I wish I could give you some good looks, but I ain't got no good looks myself. But I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So everybody who's watching, give Dr. Anderson a digital greeting. Just say hello real quick in the chat. Let him know that you love him. Let him know how much you appreciate the fact that he's taking the time to share his wisdom with you guys. And also, one of the things we always do in the beginning is we start with our B1 chat. So that everybody's on the same page. If you put Black people first, if you understand that we are the most important people in our lives, type B1 in the chat, use the hashtag B1 to let everybody know that Black people come first, and that's the way it's gonna be. And if you don't like it, you got to leave. And you ain't gotta be Black to be here, but you gotta put Black people first. So type B1 in the chat, hashtag, if that's what you believe in, that you agree with. So Dr. Anderson, let's start from the beginning here. So you and I were talking about a few things offline, and I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but I want to start off actually asking you about this topic I addressed this morning. I was talking about the group Acorn, which had galvanized hundreds of thousands of people to vote, and then they were falsely accused of engaging in illegal behavior. But because they had registered so many people to vote, Acorn had. They actually got Obama into the White House. The Republicans were saying that he rode on the back of Acorn. The Democrats controlled the House of Representatives. They controlled the Senate. They also got Obama into the White House. So Acorn was instrumental in creating the first Black president. Well, when they were falsely accused of basically doing illegal stuff, which they were found to be completely innocent, Obama didn't stand by them. Congress didn't stand by them. The Democrats didn't stand by them. They kind of let Acorn die. Now, you are a political expert. You live in D.C. When I've told you that story, you instantly seem to know what was going on. And I'd like your insights on that. Given that Acorn was this Black-led organization, there was a lot of Black folks in this group, and they did so much for the Democratic Party. They did so much to get Black folks out to vote. They did so much to get Obama elected. How do you think it is that they put them under the bus like that? I did not understand
that. because they knew from the top that Obama was not going to do anything in terms of trying to defend and protect and elevate Black people, period. They knew that President Obama, if he were elected, he would be 20 times safer than a birth control pill. We're going to do anything for Black folk. And they knew that, and all my white friends told me the same thing in politics from the highest levels, that he was going to neutralize, stay totally neutral. That's why the day after he got elected, the first thing he did was run to Washington, D.C. and talk to all the conservative reporters and writers for the different magazines and newspapers to try to get along with them. All Obama wanted was to be neutral in every respect when it came to race matters. That's why he told you up front that during his campaigning, both the first campaign and the second campaign, that Obama did not even go into one Black community because he was afraid they might ask him to commit to something to help Black folk. He avoided Blacks under all circumstances. And yet Black folk were foolish enough that they violate the basic premise of politics. Politics is based on a simple premise, Dr. Watkins. It's called quid pro quo, something for something. Politics never, as you know it today, never existed until about the 1500s. It came into existence. Politics was a French word which meant deciding who's going to get what benefits out of government. And it must be based on quid pro quo, something for something. One hand wash the other. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. But Obama knew that. Obama was not going to make any commitments to do anything for black folk. And the best way to offend him, like Maxine Waters and others found out, was to ask him to do something for black folk. He didn't mind helping Jews, Arabs, Asians out, handicapped, poor people, or women, or gays, but he wasn't going to do anything to help black folk. And he did a sufficient job. And in final conclusion of my remarks, the worst thing he did was become a model. President Obama became a role model for all white racists and conservatives in the country to demonstrate beyond a shadow of a doubt that you didn't have to do anything for black folk to be the president of the United States. So therefore, anytime a black person or anyone else asks a white person or white president like Trump wants to do something for black folk, all President Trump has to do is to use the model of Obama and say, look, you had President Obama there for 8 years. He didn't do anything for you. Why would you ask me to do what your own black person would not do? And that is a model that's going to handicap black folk in politics for the next 200 years, is that you had a black person became the president of the United States and do not one single solitary thing specifically and solely to elevate the quality of life for black folk and reverse the social conditioning and the social construct and counter all the negative things that happened to black folk during slavery and Jim Crow semi-slavery. President Obama is a role model for the negative for black folk.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what, I watched the documentary, and I got the name of it somewhere. I think it's called Acorn, the Firestorm, or Beyond the Firestorm, or something like that. And I was really kind of astonished, you know, by what I saw, you know, in terms of, I didn't know Acorn had done that much to get Obama elected and to get the Democrats into power. But then I was stunned that based on limited information, they just threw Acorn under the bus. And what this made me think about, Dr. Ennis, I'm sure you have something to say on this, is that it seems that when it comes to politics, a lot of people want to use black people. A lot of folks love to use black people. But when it comes to reciprocity, that quid pro quo you're talking about, or at least sticking by black folks when they need them the most, they tend to disappear. They say, well, we're here to take from you, but we're not here to give anything back, which seems to expand not just to the political arena, but also to the economic arena. When you talk about how black communities go bankrupt every single day because people come into the community, take all the money out, and then they go home. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, well, that's been pretty traditional throughout history, is that everybody uses black folk. See, one of the things that that's very important for me was that all my life, when I came into the world for a very specific reason based on my understanding of my family. See, my mother and father, which I deeply appreciate, brought me into this world. And but I came in, and one of the first things that I learned was about black people. I was going to a religious event and listened to the preacher talk about Samson in the Bible and how Samson came into the world for a very specific purpose. And I never have I ever heard another black preacher talk about that and understood it. Samson came in as a prototype for Jesus Christ. He was a prototype for the Old Testament. He came in here under the same identical circumstances that Jesus Christ came in. But there's a major difference. When Samson came in, Samson had one commitment. That was to fight for his people, defend them. Samson did not come into the world to be a minister. He didn't come into the world. He didn't wear a collar. He was not a preacher. He was a gambler. He was a whoremonger. He was a warrior. He was a murderer. He did everything necessary. But one thing he would not do, he would not allow anybody to offend and mistreat his people. That was Samson's role. That's what it came in. But if you were to go back and read about Samson in the Bible, you find out that in every respect, he prototyped what happened with Jesus Christ. And so when I was born and I grew up, I found out in my life, I said, I want to be just like Samson, to try to fight for black folk in all respects. And I learned that early from listening to my mother reading the Bible about Samson. But then later on, I got to become a little older. I found out that I used to pray that I would have the strength of Samson to fight for black folk. But I couldn't get that because God never gave me those abilities. So I said, maybe God didn't want me to be like Samson fighting for black folk. And maybe and really he wanted me to come to the earth, and what God sent me here for was to be more like Noah, to be able to research and go across the land and tell black folk what was coming like Noah said, there's a flood coming, and you're going to be hurt if you don't learn how to prepare an ark to be able to survive and prosper and be able to work together as a team and be ready for it, be prepared, have a prepared mind and a prepared body and a prepared community. And so I decided at that point in time that I was going to be like Noah. So I spent most of my life preparing, reading thousands of books and doing research and getting 6 college degrees and working at all levels of government with presidents and governors, heading up trade missions around the world, saying, but the difference was I came here like Jesus Christ in some respects and like Samson, but more importantly, not like Jesus Christ in one respect. I didn't come here to save the world. Jesus Christ came to do that, and he tried to come here to save the world. They crucified him and hung him on the cross. I came here strictly, specifically to try to help black folk. That's all I've done all my life. And if you were to go read the Black History Reader, my last book, and read the biography, you see all the major things I've done for black folk. Some of the major things. I did it strictly and solely for black folk. I'm not against anybody else. I don't hate any other group, but I want to go fight for that group, that every ethnic group, every religious group, every cultural group, every language group, every gender group, every trilingual group, and any other inappropriate behaving groups have all exploited, misused, and taken advantage of black folk. Use black folk to their advantage. Use black folk politically to advance themselves. Use black folk economically to empower themselves. Everybody's done that. And so when I came to the world, that's what I fought to say. I like Jesus Christ, and in some respects, but like Samson in all respects, to fight strictly and solely for black folk. I'm not against anyone. But yes, everybody's used black folk. They're going to continue to use black folk. Why? Because black folk do not have the resources to be able to reward and punish those who sell them out. So almost every black person you put into a political office, he's going to use meritorious manumission to elevate himself, and be able to sell black folk out and profit. That's what they're going to do. Other groups are going to sell black folk out because black folk are defenseless. They have no communities. They bought into social integration that they were led into mistakenly based on misinformation and not understanding what I said before last week. They never understood about Revelations and the 4 horses of the apocalypse. And then I looked at your site last week, and one woman says, how does Dr. Anderson know that 4 horsemen came here to help black folk? How does he know that the 4 horsemen have come or will come? And I want to answer her question on your show. I came for a very specific reason. A lot of things you don't know, but you got a brain. And you got a brain you should think and analyze. If you analyze historical science and conditions, you can make predictions. I don't know right now whether or not the sun's going to come up tomorrow morning. If I understand the historical records of when the sun rose and what time you can make a prediction what time the sun's going to come up. And that's the difference. And right now, so I try to use what I've learned in history, how to predict. And I predicted that the 4 horses of apocalypse that's in Revelation, John 1, came to the earth as presented in Revelations in the Bible. It came in right in the 1950s, and that's why black folk right now are suffering those 4 things from the 4 horses of the apocalypse. Whenever you want to talk about them today or the next week, we'll talk about those specifically on how they impact negatively against black folk. But I'm here to try to help black folks survive the 4 horses of the apocalypse that nobody understood, not even those who taught and misteach Samson in the Bible and misteach Christ in the Bible and never understood Revelation, what it meant about the 4 horses of the apocalypse. I hope I answered, but everybody's been using blacks. They still use black folk. I'm here to help black folk. That's why my 4 or 5 books were designed like second Bibles, as Ebony and Jet says, to help black people.
All right, everybody. I'm speaking with Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Claude Anderson is the author of the books Black Labor, White Wealth, Powernomics, Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2, and the Black History Reader. His website is powernomics.com. If you have not gone there yet, it's a great time to go there because these are books that your children should all read. You should introduce your children to these concepts. I think it's really, really important. And also, do me a favor, everybody, right now, please take 1 second, hit the thumbs up button, hit that share button, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to drboycetv.com. We won't let you down. We're here for you every day. and make sure that we, work together, stick together, share information so that we can actually grow together. So Dr. Anderson, let's talk about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. So you've talked about, the eventual struggle, destruction of black people, or just how black people are in a situation where we're in a state of war. And in this quarantine, you're seeing millions of people that are out of work. You see a lot of folks that are really struggling. But what I also see is I see a lot of fear. I see a lot of people fearing, not just the virus, but also, either they're in fear or they're numbing themselves. They're the biggest, most popular places to gather are like party websites now. People are having parties on the internet. There's DJs that are doing, little Instagram parties, and everybody's coming to the DJ party. But you don't really, and what that kind of reminds me of is that our community, we got a lot of people that are always ready for a party, but not a lot of people that are ready for a plan. A lot of people ready for, to have some fun, but not really interested in strategizing or putting together something that's going to help us achieve a goal or to overcome something. So the P that we focus on tends to be party, when we maybe should be focusing on planning, on preparation, right, on purpose. Can you kind of speak to some of that in terms of are people being distracted in the middle of desperate, tough situations like the times we're in right now? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Oh, yes, I will. Let's go back very quickly. I don't want to take up all the time today talking about this, since I gave you some information about this last week. But see, the 4 horses of the apocalypse arrived about in the 1950s. And the 4 horses of the apocalypse was made up of 3 horses. One was called a white horse, the other was called a red horse, the third one was a black horse, and the 4th one was called a pale horse. And each one of those had very significant things impact on the world. And it did come. And see, the first one was called a white horse. The white horse symbolized a person rising up and going out into being and wearing a crown and being very significant and try to bring about a new spiritual base to the mankind and what it meant to the world. And seeing that, in my mind, that came out with Martin Luther King. That was very critically important in the late 1950s. That's why Martin Luther King rose to such prominence. That's why you hear all these white folks still talking about Martin Luther King, what he brought about and what he did. They accepted him. He was like the white man, he was like the white horse riding the white horse. And that's why they like to quote him, because what they did once he became very popular, they jumped in and started trying to mislead Martin down the wrong path. And when Martin should have been focused strictly on black folk, they misled him and tried to trick him again and mislead him in the wrong direction. And so Martin came in, and that's why he started calling for this march on Washington. Let's say in 1963. At that particular time, the Kennedy administration said, "Yeah, we'll accept him as being the knight in white armor." And they always look up to Martin Luther, because their other choice on the other side was Malcolm X. Because on the back side, you had Malcolm X. Most people, blacks in America, were rallying to Malcolm X and to the Black Panthers and to the Black Revolutionary Party. Blacks were not listening to Martin Luther King. They were following other groups that were much Elvis Cleveland and Rap Brown, Stokely Carmichael. Those are the people who are very significant. That scared the hell out of white folk. And they said Martin Luther King was riding a white horse. We'll take him instead. And then when Martin Luther King is scheduled to come into Washington, that's 1963 March, the Kennedy administration jumped in immediately and said he can come, but he's going to have to come with certain qualifications. First of all, he can come in, but if he bring that many blacks into Washington, D.C. for a big march on Washington, that he can't that he had to get in here and get out of town before the sun went down. Because just like these sundown towns all across America at that time, with most of them being in Texas, but every city had a white city where black folk could not come into a white community and stay there after the sun would go down. They were called sundown towns, which means blacks had to get out of town before the sun went down. So if blacks were to march on Washington, they had to be out by the time the sun went down. And the Kennedy said, we don't want all these blacks coming and giving an impact that somehow this nation was going to recognize blacks strictly and solely for what they were worth in the society, that they were exceptional people, special people, that they were the people with the black labor that had built this country. We cannot let that occur, but for them to get that kind of recognition that Dr. Anderson presently pushes nowadays, that they are the special people in this nation. They were the one that built the country. And so what they said is that he can have that march on Washington, but we're going to go. So what they did, they used their power in the presidency to bring in white colleges, and all these young white kids came in into the march, to dilute it and wash it down. We said we got to neutralize blackness. Blackness is too powerful, because that's why in 1924 they passed what's called a one-drop a black blood law, which says that one drop of black blood was so powerful that it would override tons of white blood. That's called it's called a one-drop rule. Have you familiar with that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what that meant. We cannot let blacks have that kind of power. So they brought in all these white young kids from college to participate in the march in 1963. And secondly, they also did the same thing with white women. They called all these white organizations, brought in all white women to help neutralize down the march on Washington, D.C. And then they went to the unions, divided all the unions participated in that march. And lastly, they also got the gays into it, had neutralized that march so that you could take the focus off of black folk. And that's why Martin Luther starts not talking about black folk at that march. He was then persuaded just to be able to continue to do what he was doing in trying to help his own people. He had to neutralize and water it down so it wouldn't be that strong. That's why he started talking about colorblindness, about having a dream, about a little black boy walking across the red hill of Georgia holding a white girl's hand. That was not a dream, that was a nightmare. And then he shifted from that, and they said to bring in, start to focus on poverty, because poverty could not be neutralized. Poverty right now was not the major issue, because right now there's a major difference between white people. Poverty for whites and poverty in black are totally different. Because white folk are always a part of the white power structure. They get what benefits that the rich people bring to the table. Poor whites get a chance to enjoy it. That's why right now the average white person at the end of slavery had 3,500 times the wealth, the net worth and wealth of a black person. And so, and right now you got 3 white men right now that have more wealth and power than all 46 million black people put together. In terms of poverty, they knew that Martin Luther could not eradicate poverty. So he went up to Memphis, Tennessee to talk about garbage collectors, about poverty. They knew you cannot, poverty is a fix, it's a given. You got rich people, you're gonna have poor people. You got an up, you're gonna have a down. You have an out, you're gonna have an in. They knew that. So in terms of poverty, by classifying blacks, shifting the focus from black people to poverty, that neutralized black folk. Because a poor white person got 20,000 right now, net worth typically is $20,000 worth of value. Where for a black person right now, today, is only 2,000, which means a poor white person still has 10 times more wealth power than a black. That people don't know that. So you start talking about let's eradicate poverty. You're not talking about black folk. You're not talking about black folk. That's a neutralizing process. Just like when you talk about multicultural, people of color, you neutralize everything to take the focus off of black folk. That's why later on, Martin Luther pushed over to start talking about Vietnam and the Korean War. Instead of talking about when he says things like discrimination against anybody everywhere on earth is discrimination against black folk. Discrimination is not, discrimination hasn't got a damn thing to do with poverty. I mean, with the black people, with racism. Racism is totally different from discrimination. Everybody has to discriminate to make decisions. Everybody is prejudiced. Everybody is biased. Those are human nature characteristics to make decisions. That has nothing to do with racism. Racism is totally different from discrimination, bias, and bigotry. Prejudice. Those things have nothing in the world to do with racism. Racism is a competitive relationship between groups of people who are competing for the ownership and control of wealth, power, and resources. Racism never existed until after the Civil War. That's when it came into existence. It's been a race with nations around the world trying to own and control resources. And black folk were the pawns to be used. They were the willing horse to pull the wagon. So you hear people talk about why we use black folk. They use black folk in politics and in economics because black folk tend to be the willingest horse, a willing ass to pull the heaviest load. And when you hear white folk talking about, well, Martin Luther said that we should not judge people based on skin color. We should base it on the content of their character. Anybody got more than a high school education would say, well, how in the hell you got 360 million people in the United States? How in the hell, what courts are you going to use for psychoanalysis for judging the content of their character? How the hell are you going to judge the content of somebody's character with the Ku Klux Klan, the White Citizen Council, and the conservatives right now in politics? Nobody needs to know the content of their character. If you use skin color to deprive black folk of their basic rights, put them into a ditch, You must use skin color to pull them out. And so they used Martin Luther King again at that time as a white horse. Then later on they moved to the red horse. The red horse, so white folks, let's push back. That's why they pushed back. They killed Martin Luther King. They killed a whole bunch of black folk. They killed Malcolm X. And then they set up all these different places right now to put blacks into special camps under various programs under FEMA, and to be able to incarcerate them. And but I'm not gonna focus on that. But that's why they kill off all the Black Panther movements and internally as they exterminate them. They use the FBI to do it. They pushed back. That was a red horse. The black horse came next. The black horse, when black folk tried to push back and do something special for black folk, they got wiped out. And I'm gonna jump to the end right quick. The pale horse right now is that for black folk to come together and rebuild their communities and again learn how to play the game. And that's what my books are about. What pale horse means black folk must come together, reunite, and begin to get wealth and power, and begin to control their capital, stop the capital drain out of their communities. Right now, 98% of their money goes straight to white folk. And to end social integration, they destroyed black communities. They used what's called urban renewal, and they destroyed every black community in America. Drove an expressway through every black city in America and built expressways and a new thing called suburbs. So white folk can move out of the urban cities and move to the suburbs and take all the money, the wealth, the businesses, and the voting power and strength into the suburbs and let black folk have those urban cities. And black folk had those urban cities since the 1960s. And now white folk are gonna take them back on a new concept called gentrification and privatization. Right now, why? Because 70% of all black people in America live in and around 10 large metropolitan cities. They're gonna be gentrified. And so when they take these cities over, black folk are gonna be wiped out. They're gonna continue to bear 6 to 8 times their fair share of everything bad and only 0.5% of anything good. That's what's gonna happen in these urban cities. That's why when you start talking about this virus, black folk are gonna pick up half of the damn killings and deaths gonna hit black folk. Black folk are gonna carry the burden for the deaths from this virus. And just like everything else, they are the poor people. They are the people who have no leadership. They have no leaders. All their leaders have sold them out and become integrated and got franchised through meritorious manumission. Now I'm gonna stop there because that was a long, drawn out lecture to you. Then I'll go on with some other aspects. But here are the 4 things to watch out for black folk. 1, integration is bad for black folk. It wiped them out. And they gotta learn how to move away from integration and go back and get their own communities and build their own businesses, provide services, goods, products, and job opportunities, and income tax base for their own people. Get away from social integration. Social integration has a quota system in it. White folk are never accept more than 5 to 6% of black folk to be socially integrated. That's why right now you're more segregated today than you were in 1954. Point 1. Point 2, the next horse, the red horse, would be integration. Immigration. People coming into the country. They're coming into the country to bury black folk. Nobody's coming in the country to get along with black folk. They're gonna come in and take all the jobs. That's why 46% of all the jobs under Obama, the Hispanics, not the black folk. That's why black folk now are under the bottom. If you go look at the 2014 census, you'll see that on a social context, black folk are still on the bottom. Asians came in the country and get 5 times the income of black folk. Even Hispanics are twice over black folk in income. Black folk are still on the bottom of everything. So immigration is a negative. They're displacing black folk in everything, in jobs, business, education. All the programs that should have gone to black folk on a great society went to immigrants. That's the second thing. With immigration is negative for black folk. The third thing is globalization. They took all those industries that should have stayed in the black community to give black folk a chance after the civil rights laws. We had, like for instance, we had almost 200 shoe manufacturing companies. They could easily integrate black folk and give black folk some of those factories where black folks have been producing shoes. They didn't. They moved all those industries to abroad, to third world countries. They moved the shoes out. They moved the furniture industries out. They moved we used to make manufacture 90% of the commercial products. We manufactured most of the clothing around the world, telephones, radios, wristwatches, automobiles. All that stuff was moved to third world countries so they lift the quality of standards for them. And black folk did not get a chance to get those businesses and industries. So because they went into globalization, when they moved into globalization of third world, then they set up a process that says that now these major white corporations can now turn around and now make and put those businesses in the foreign country, they can move their factories to third world countries. And now they can get cheap labor over there, and the profits they make will not come back to the United States. They'll have to pay taxes on it. And they stop in Singapore and in the Caribbean, and when it went offshore banking. Offshore banking is now getting all the wealth that followed those major industries out of the country through globalization. Then they turn around and say now instead of manufacturing major products that would have jobs and business opportunities for blacks in America, we put up 700 military bases in foreign countries where now those military, where we become the police forces of the world. And we'll protect those factories and businesses that we're going to put up in those countries when Coca-Cola goes overseas. And so that's why China was a third world country in 1980 when I was with President Carter. And now we moved all our factories and industries, so now China's producing the products. Now we get 57% of everything that's produced by China comes to America. United States buy it. We buy it. We buy 47% of all the textiles we had textile factories in South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, and Maryland, and up in New Jersey. All those industries moved to China, move to India. Now India, go look at the clothing. Most of it comes from India. 47% of it.
Oh, Dr. Henderson? Looks like Dr. Henderson froze. While Dr. Henderson comes back, I assume he's going to come back in a second. Do me a favor, guys. Let me know if you can see me and hear me okay. Can you see me and hear me okay? Give me a yes or no if you can see me and hear me okay. It looks like it might be my Wi-Fi, so let me see if I can make some adjustments here because my Wi-Fi has been acting weird since the quarantine. So let me see. Yeah, I sure can. Now I can. Now I can.
Okay, and the last thing was technology. Technology is the fourth horse of the apocalypse. Technology was designed to displace black folk. That's why all the jobs that black folk had in the South, all the way up to 19, where black folk were the major cotton pickers and laborers in the South. But as soon as black folk, after World War II, and after the Depression, they then decided that they would create technology that would displace black folk. Black folk moved north and came into Chicago and Detroit and all these big places, went into the factories, chemical plants, to the automobile factories, and to the steel mills. And guess what? They went in there and they did say, well, that was in the 1940s and 1950s. Blacks got a nice job moving out of the South, moving it up north. As soon as they got in there, they started introducing technology with computers in about the late 1960s. Those computers displaced black folk, took away all the jobs from them. And so now, so instead of having automatic, where blacks working as elevator operators, they put in computer-driven operators. Instead of electric dishwashers, they put in automatic dishwashers. Everything was technology displaced black folk. And what most people don't know is that technology doesn't create jobs. Technology destroys jobs. They keep telling black folk, we're going to create some new technology so you black folk have more jobs. For every job, for every one job that technology creates, it destroys 12 to 13 jobs. Nobody in his right mind would be. That's why all the parking lot attendants are gone. All the factory workers are gone. They displacing black folk. Pretty soon, black folk will be no jobs for because blacks don't have their communities. They don't have their businesses. They can't produce jobs. And so what they're telling black folk in school, go get yourself a good education so you can go back to a neighborhood.
Oh, looks like it froze again. Let me see if I'm coming through okay. You guys on YouTube able to hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Looks like the Wi-Fi is acting a little bit funny. Dr. Anderson was on a roll, wasn't he?
Okay, I'm gonna get off of that. But technology is the last thing that's against black folk. Those are the four horses. One is integration, another one is migration. The third one was called technology, and the other was globalization. Those are the four horses of the apocalypse. They're gonna destroy black folk. People, if they don't go back and get away from those things, they rebuild their own communities and start to create jobs for their own people with income tax base and services for their own people with business and industries, produce food food, clothing, everything that they need. Don't be dependent on other people. That's what my books are about. That's why I love black folk. That's why I try to warn them about it. Those are the 4 things they got to watch out for. If you buy into those things that the white society is talking about, it's going to destroy black folk. And that's why black folk are still in the bottom. That's why right now black folk, 38% of all black folk in poverty. Another 30% is on borderline going into poverty. They have no jobs, they have no wealth, they have no businesses, and they make up 51% of all the damn prisoners in the prisons right now. And then with the viruses, going to kill off 50% of the deaths going to come to black people. I'll quit there.
Everybody who's watching, I'm speaking with Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Anderson is the author of the books Powernomics, Black Labor, White Wealth, The Black History Reader, and Dirty Little Secrets 1 and 2. Somebody type this URL in. It's powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. So go there and take a look at his books. I think that we should have our own curriculum. And when you put together your own curriculum, you should include all of Dr. Anderson's books. He can teach your kids about black history, about black politics, about black economics. And I hope that you will agree with me that the public school system does not do a good job of doing that. White folks are never going to teach you about people like Dr. Anderson. It's not in their incentive to do that. That is your job. Your job as the parent to introduce your children to the things that you want your kids to know. So please write that down, powernomics.com. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button, the share button, and the subscribe button. And so, Dr. Anderson, what I'd like to do before I let you get the last word is, I want to reiterate the four horsemen, or you said the four horses of the apocalypse. Is that what you refer to it as?
Right. And they did come, and they came in the late night, starting in the 1950s, and they're all right now. Instead of aiding black folks, right now they're hurting black folk. It was called integration. Black folk integration is a dilution process. It's a watering down. It's a neutralizing process, and it has a quota system in it that makes sure black folk can never become a majority. That's why you're a permanent minority in a society where the majority will win and rule and minority will lose and suffer. Integration is a negative. You cannot make black coffee strong by putting in cream. So integration is bad for black folk. And every black official up until the 1950s was opposed to integration. The next second thing is called migration. Migration, with all these people pouring into the country, that is a negative for black folk. That made black folk a permanent minority, made them a permanent underclass. That's why you talk about bringing Hispanics. In 1900, you only had 100,000 Hispanics in the United States, but 12 million black folk. Now Hispanics have come in here and surpassed black folk. You got 56 million Hispanics. They've surpassed black folk. How did 100,000 Hispanics surpass 12 million? And they had the same birth rate? Because right now you're a permanent minority. That's why they keep bringing in Hispanics into the country, giving them rights and benefits that the black folk are being denied. Immigration is a negative. They're taking over your jobs. They're taking they're taking you out of the consciousness of this country. You don't have any political power. You don't have any voting power. You're now outnumbered 10-1. Nobody gives a damn about black folk voting. Who cares if you got 10 people voting against, 9 people voting against black folks one vote doesn't mean anything. As I say, if I throw you into a barnyard into a fenced area with 10 hungry bulldogs, and again throw one black in there, and they said they're gonna vote what they're gonna have for lunch that day, then they're gonna eat that rabbit's ass. If black folk are the rabbit, they're gonna eat him, because black folk vote doesn't count. Black folk only count to give them some kind of a social illusion that they got a voice in politics. Nobody needs the black vote unless they keeping you busy and prepared to lose. People say, Dr. Anderson, aren't you talking about suppressing the black vote? No. The United States Constitution, the first Constitution, suppressed your black vote, and you've been suppressed ever since until you go back and redistribute the wealth and resources into the black community. You are suppressed by the United States Constitution, both the first one and the second one. You're suppressed by the civil rights laws that were captured and corrupted. That nobody cares about your vote. We got voter suppression. Hell, you've been having voter suppression now for 460 years. You have a record of being suppressed more than anybody else. So the second thing was called immigration. The third thing is called globalization, which means that they moved all these factories and industries out of this country and moved them abroad intentionally to make sure black folk didn't get hold of. Blacks could have taken over the textile industries, factories to make clothes and stuff. They could do it today if they follow Powernomics books. They could be making T-shirts and having machines. All the machines right now stacked up down in Fort Knox, Tennessee. All those things are making clothes. It used to be in this country in the cotton belt, where they're making clothes, sheets, pillowcases, everything. They moved all those things to India and other countries, Taiwan, Korea. And now that's why you don't have any factories in the country. They gave them away so black folk couldn't get their hands on them. And the last thing was called, was called technology. Technology has never been a friend of black folk. Black folk have always stayed one step ahead of technology. And once technology get a chance, it'll capture and control and wipe black folk out. That's why black folk lost all the jobs they used to have. But those are the four horses of the apocalypse in racial terms that came in the 1950s. They're still here, but black folk are ill prepared to deal with it. That's why my 5 books, Black Labor, White Wealth, say that's your problem. Powernomics, so here's your plan. 2 Dirty Little Secrets books says here's why you're special people, exceptional people. Don't ever let anybody put you in ambiguous groups like minorities, poor folk, people of color, multicultural, and all that. Don't let them put you in those groups. You are special people. Nobody's been mistreated and maltreated as long as black folk have. You have the world's record for the most mistreated people on earth. And the last thing is the technology that is going to wipe you out. Those are the 4 horses of the apocalypse: globalization, technology, immigration, and migration.
All right. Everybody, do me a favor before we get out of here. Hit the thumbs up button. Everybody hit the thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Twitter, please retweet this conversation. If you're on Facebook, please share this. We really want to basically take over our spot in black media. Intelligent black people are taking over. So I just want to make that announcement now, because pretty soon everybody's going to be doing what we're doing. 10 years ago, we started talking about wealth and economics. Everybody thought we were weird. Everybody thought we were crazy. Now everybody's talking about wealth and economics. Well, over time, I'm telling you, over time, it's only a matter of time before our community turns that corner. So we could use your help. So everybody watching, take 1 second right now, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. That really helps us to push the message. Also, type in powernomics.com or use the hashtag Powernomics or hashtag B1 to let people know you're black first. Use those hashtags on social media so people can join the conversations. If you want to join Dr. Anderson's YouTube channel, it's on powernomics.com. You can find it, subscribe to it. Everybody subscribe. Everybody take a look at the books. Consider making a donation to Harvest Institute, his think tank. That's harvestinstitute.org. White people donate to Harvard and Yale and St. Patrick's Cathedral and stuff like that. Well, black folks have to donate and support the institutions that matter to us. So Harvest Institute, that's my favorite think tank. That's where I think everybody should consider giving your support. So I want to say thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. I really appreciate your time. It's always a pleasure getting a chance to talk to you.
Okay, well, thank you. And I enjoy coming on with you every week. And I also tell them that following this pandemic, this virus, that the next thing going to come up again. That's one thing I learned again through godly inspiration when I was a young man. The next thing that come up when they go is going to be water shortages and food shortages. That's coming down the tube next. And then when the next time we come on next week, I'm going to tell you how they can be prepared for protect themselves for water shortages and food shortages, just like I told you how to protect themselves from these viruses. Build your own communities, put in your own medical centers, doctors, offices, and your food grocery stores. Raise your own food and everything else. But anyway, we'll talk about that next week. And tell them to go to powernumbers.com and get those 5 books. And I'm gonna check and I'm gonna call the office and say, did they buy that book? Buy those 5 books? I said, when Dr. Watkins says, tell them to get those books, they'll go buy them so they can understand these issues. Because right now I spent my entire life by either by my parents or God sending me to earth saying, do this for black folk. And I've done it all my life. Look, read my books, you'll find out that's what I'm after. I'm not against anybody, but I do love black folk, even though some of them ain't worth a quarter, but most of them I love.
Well, we love everybody in here. And so I hope everybody will take a second also to let Dr. Anderson know how much you love him. Please give him a digital thank you, a digital round of applause. Just everybody say thank you so much for taking your time, for sharing. I appreciate it, Dr. Anderson. And so I want to give the URL again. It's powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. And don't forget, we got Black Movie Night next week where we're building a Black Hollywood and supporting Black filmmakers. So if you'd like to register for free for Black Movie Night, we're going to watch The Melanin Code by Marcus Small, which if you like movies like Hidden Colors, The Melanin Code is a lot like Hidden Colors. Not to compare the two, not that they're competing, but it's a genre, right? So check it out. You're going to love it. Marcus is going to be there. So blackmovienight.net. That's blackmovienight.net. That's where you can register. And of course, if you haven't learned to buy your first share of stock, get the free training at firstshareofstock.com. Everybody become an investor. And so powernomics.com, though, that's the URL I want you to write down first, because I want you guys to go there and make sure your kids get exposed to Powernomics principles. So
if they when they buy those books, tell them to get the library pack. That's important. To get all 5 of those books and a DVD for $99. That's critically important. To get all those books are vertically integrated to show them all these problems and the answers and how to beat it. And say, like Powernomics says, a prepared mind and a prepared community can teach Black folk how to survive. Those are what those books are about. Preparing them.
Well, there you go. Like they say, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So right now we all trying to get ready, but we should have been staying ready. So just know, a crisis, the next crisis is around the corner. So make a choice. Are you going to stay ready, or are you going to be trying to get ready? Because right now a lot of folks are trying to get ready, and we ain't ready. So be smart, be intelligent, and stay Black, everybody. Love you guys. See you soon. Thank you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, buddy. See you next week.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10, 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV.